Hi guys, in this lesson I want to talk about how you can use theory to analyze the licks you already play and make more lines using that knowledge. We all have stock phrases or standard licks that we play all the time and that we use a lot because they're in our ears and they're in our fingers. And we get them probably from stuff we practiced and from people we transcribed. In this lesson I want to try and talk about how you can use your theoretical knowledge and your technical exercises actually to generate new lines with stuff that you already know, just by analyzing what your licks consist of and then applying that to get new lines for the same chord or other chords. Shifting stuff around diatonically and using similar devices that are variations on what was already there. I think the way I approach this, I mean, it's not a strict theoretical way to approach this because there are melodies and I'm using my associations to mold the lines that I'm playing. So in that respect it's not really a completely logical method that you can, or systematical method that you can apply completely like a robot. You need to have a lot of theory knowledge in terms of arpeggios and scales and different sort of voicing structures. But if you start thinking like this, then you can actually generate really a huge amount of lines, and a lot of it works really well. The way I'm going to do this is just to give you some examples, so some lines that I can then mold into other lines and make new variations on it so that it expands and you get more ideas from the same melodic concept. So the first example is a line that I use a lot when I'm playing on a minor chord. So that would be this line. And one way to look at that is to say, well, okay, it's on an A minor chord for now. So I'm playing the diatonic 7th chord from the 5th of the chord. And then I'm playing this pattern, which you could call it like a Coltrane pattern. Or we can also just look at it as being sort of an intervallic structure in this case in the key of G. In the key of G major. If I move this around, so I need to use an arpeggio. If I want to stay on the A minor, I need to use an arpeggio that will work well with an A minor 7 chord. So the first thing to do is probably to take an arpeggio that does not have the F sharp, because if we're playing this in a sort of a tonal context, then probably the F sharp is going to tell us that we're actually on another chord, namely the D7. So one chord that we could use is we can try and play the same thing, instead not from the 5th, but from the 3rd of the chord. So the 3rd of A minor is a C. So if I play the arpeggio there, that would be this. So now we have that arpeggio. If I want to move this, well, so it's sort of starting on the note that's in between the last two notes of the arpeggio. So that would be this note, which is in fact the root. If I look at this pattern in the key of G, then it's just stepwise and then a diatonic 3rd. So if I do that here, I get this, and then I have this line. Another way to look at it, and this is where it sort of should open up a bit more, is that, well, we could also say it's not something that's in the key of G major. We can look at it as being part of an A minor pentatonic scale. So if I play the A minor pentatonic scale from here, I get this, and then I have this line. So in that way So, if I can still play it. So in that way I already made two more lines just by moving it around diatonically. If I took, because of course, so let's see what happens if we, instead of using the E minor, we use the A minor arpeggio in the beginning. So then I'm here. And then I'm going to go to this note. And the fact that I put this note on the 3 is, to me, especially if I'm playing it in a non-modal context, so if I'm playing it in a song, it's sort of telling me that probably I want to use this on a chord that has that note in it. So the most obvious one would be the D7. So as soon as I start to do this, it's probably more of a D7 line to me. Of course, you might hear it differently, so it could be that you will choose to say, well, I actually kind of like this on an A minor. I think it belongs a bit more in a sort of a modal context. I'm pretty sure Herbie Hancock doesn't agree with me a lot with that, though. But so to me, it's a taste thing. I would immediately go, well, that's probably a D7. So okay, so if I play that there, then we could play this pattern. Well, it could be this, or it could be this. And to my ears, this sounds a bit stronger. So that would be one I would probably go for. Again, it's a taste thing, so how you choose to mold it and how you choose to use the results you come up with, it's up to you. I'm just trying to show you how I would work on it and how I would apply it. So let's just try the same kind of structure on another note. Let's see if we do the same thing with a G major 7. So we get this, and then we will get this for the second half, or yeah, so, or possibly this, if we were to see it as part of a pentatonic scale. So in that way we already made, let's see, 6 new lines from the first one that I just presented, and they will have sort of the same melodic structure, so they will have the same kind of movement, like up an arpeggio and then up this other sort of pentatonic pattern, or however you want to call that. And if that's what you like about the lick, then you can sort of keep that while fitting it to other chords. But in this way, of course, it's also still sounding pretty much the same. So you can also sort of mess more with it, and I think we're going to do that in the second example. So for the second example, the line that I'll start with is this, again on A minor. To me it consists out of this stack of 4s, and then this, which is the first inversion of D major triad, and then this diatonic third. So you get what we then can start to do is, well, we have a 3-note grouping here, which is a certain sort of arpeggio, and we have the same for the next 3-note grouping, and we have a 2-note grouping. Then we can, of course, I mean, we could do the same as we did with the other one, and then start moving it around and go, which will give us basically the same kind of line, but in different places and fitting different chords. Another way to look at it is to say, well, let's try another 3-note arpeggio. For this to make sense, I want to have a 3-note arpeggio that ends on the note G, so I can easily go to the first note of the next of the triad, of the next part of the line. One thing we could try is to play, well, we can play a shell voicing. So I can play this A minor shell voicing, or I can play a C major open triad. We could even say, well, okay, we can try this sort of chord voicing, which something so that in that way we have different versions of the same structure that we can use. Of course, we can also mess with the second part. So instead of the D major triad, well, we could make that into another stack of fourths. So we can again, since we're landing on the F sharp, it sort of becomes the sort of modal A minor sound, I guess. What more could we do? We can do. We can make this D major triad into a B minor triad. So in that way we have different ways of substituting the sort of the parts that the line is made of, and we can use that to get new ideas. And I think it's the kind of thing where you would pretty much practice it the way I do now, that you just sit around and try to compose lines and then see if you can come up with something that you think like, okay, this will sound good. And then of course you need to work a bit on it to get it into your playing. What you need to be able to do with this is, of course, you need to have the lines that you play already in a tonal context, or at least in a scale, so you kind of know where you can move it back and forth. And you need to have a fair amount of knowledge on different structures in the scale. So you need probably to use your, so you have your triads and inversions, your quartal arpeggios, open triads, those kind of things, that you have those readily available and can find them without too much trouble. Which is also one of the reasons why you want to study those anyway, because you want to have a really good overview of how to play pretty much anything everywhere on the neck. So that's one of the big advantages of using theory when trying to come up with lines. In the end, what you come up with, you have to judge with your taste and with your ear if it works. So that's always going to be up to you. You write something and you have to go, does it sound good? And well, that'll differ from person to person, what they like. And probably also, the more you study, the more you will change your taste, and you will accept some things, and you will probably not accept some things on the way. At least that's, for me, it's like this, that sometimes I'll go, ah, this is really cool, and then half a year later I'll not like that anymore for some reason. Or I remember not, for instance, not liking minor major sounds too much when I just started playing on chords, because I thought it sounded strange. And now it's probably one of my go-to things to work with, as it is for most jazz musicians, actually. So that would be what I would do with licks when I'm trying to come up with new ideas from what I already play. I hope that you can use this, the idea. If you have any questions, then leave them on the video, or connect with me on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus and ask me there. If you have any suggestions for lessons, well, then you can leave them here too on the video, or you can connect with me. You can, of course, if you like the lesson, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Then you will know when I'm making new lessons. And you can also subscribe to my newsletter on my website. And I'm trying to make a lesson every week, so there's always stuff coming. In any case, thanks for watching, and good luck with making new lines.